Hello, everyone. It's now 2:30, so I'm going to go ahead and start our meeting in our class. I am recording the session, so just to let you know that we are all being recorded, and for those who can't show up for the class, they'll be able to listen to it later. I do have to say that I'm very thankful that we are not in the classroom right now because where I am, it is 103 degrees. But because Science 311 has absolutely no air conditioning, over there it is 106 degrees. So I don't know where you are. I hope wherever you're at, you're enjoying air conditioning. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Anyone have any questions? Okay, you saw my email that I have had to manually go through absolutely everything in Pearson and Canvas because the two LMSs, learning management systems, are not really talking to one another. And so I'm having to manually configure every single module. And then it will work automatically. And I'm told that yes, that is automation. So I do have to smile about that, but thank you for your patience. And I do know that in CS190 right now, everything is absolutely cleaned up. So you can go in and you can see the grades are carrying over now from Pearson as they should have been doing automatically, and they did not. So make sure that you don't miss those deadlines. Make sure that you go into the module. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure you're logged into your Pearson and then go into Canvas and only access the assignments through the module. And that should keep everything working smoothly. Okay. So today's meeting is based on Chapter 11. We are jumping to Chapter 11. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and I'm going to go here and play from the start. So today we're talking about professionalism, motivation, leadership, and teams. And I know that a lot of you are working in some really great teams, but oftentimes teamwork within the university system, group work, can be less than what you would think would be attractive. And so I want to talk to you about some tactics. I want to talk to you about the differences between teams. So we love teams because they have a unity, they have an energy, and you can actually accomplish more when you get more people working together. After you study Chapter 11, you should be able to define motivation and explain common motivational factors. You should be able to explain primary leadership styles and key qualities of a successful leader. And yes, you are a leader. Even if you are not in charge, you are leading by how you lead yourself. Examining the difference between leadership and management. You should be able to describe a team, the elements of effective teams, and how they affect performance. You should be able to identify the characteristics of an effective team and their players. What makes an effective team player? And this is really good for you to be able to identify, especially as you're doing your SLIP at the very end and you're putting together your portfolio, because you want to be able to describe to your boss why you are an effective team player. And it's not just because you got your work done. That's not enough. You need to know how to demonstrate how to deal with a difficult team member. How do you do that? And then listing and describing the elements of success of a successful meeting. A lot of time is wasted in meetings. There are often times that I think I walk out and think to myself, that could have been an email. Why did we spend an hour on basically not doing much of anything? So the foundation for performance includes motivation, leadership, and teamwork. So all employees, it doesn't matter if you're in charge or not, should strive to display the characteristics of a leader. So how you self-lead yourself will actually rub off on other team members. Now, I have to be realistic. There's always that team member that's not, no matter what you do to try to motivate them or try to get them to be part of the team, it's not going to happen. So motivation and leadership are all elements of teamwork. Motivation is your internal drive that causes you to behave in a certain way to meet a need. And motivation basically comes from within. Yes, you can have outside motivating factors, but if that motivation is not built in you to do something, just like, for instance, if you get someone who is cheating. So you're working in a group, and instead of doing the work, they actually go get somebody else to do the work, or they find a place where they could get what you need that they haven't cited, and we call that in academia plagiarism, of course. So the motivation does have to come within you. And there are several factors that contribute to motivation. It's just not monetary. I have several friends who make an enormous amount of money, but their work is boring. And so really, if the work isn't interesting, no matter how much money you get paid, it's not going to be enough of a motivating factor to make you a vital and an active member of a team. Only you can motivate yourself, and you know this. Others can provide a motivating environment, but only you can motivate yourself. I mean, there are times that I know that some of you, when you were working this summer, were working very long hours. You were working more than 5 days a week. And because you believed in the team and you believed in the product, you were actually motivated, not by the money, but by the work. And that was kind of in you, because that work excited you. So if you're having a non-productive day, you need to listen to that self-talk. We all have self-talk when it comes to motivation. We all have self-talk in how we describe ourselves, how we describe others. So review your goals to get back on track. If you have not written down those goals, like we did in the last chapter when you were writing down a workplace goal, if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to go back and look at what you've written down and say, okay, this is my goal. What right now is keeping me from achieving that goal? So leadership is the process of one person guiding or influencing one or more individuals toward a specific goal. So it doesn't mean you're in charge, and you don't have to be in charge to be a leader. And I think a lot of my interns and my students don't realize this when I ask them in a mock interview. So tell me a time when you had to lead a team. And they look at me and say, well, I haven't been in charge. Yes, you have been in charge. By how you lead yourself, like I said, you are all leading others. So we're all leaders, all of us. Leaders are not just managers and supervisors, and not all bosses are leaders. And the older you get and the more bosses that you have, you will recognize truly when a boss is a leader and when a boss is just a boss. So there are some primary leadership styles. There's autocratic leaders. They're pretty much authoritarian. They make decisions on their own. Democratic leaders, they make decisions based on input from others. And then kind of my least favorite, especially when you have deadlines, is the laissez-faire leaders. And they allow team members to pretty much make their own decisions without input from the leader. And so I kind of like the democratic model, where we know that we're all leaders and we're going to make decisions based on input from one another. So effective leaders display characteristics that make them stand out by being positive and supportive of others. So they work well with others. And primarily they're trustworthy. You can trust them. If they say, you know what, I'm going to have this to you by 12 o'clock on Monday, you know that you can depend on them to have that to you at 12 o'clock on Monday. They're also ethical and focused. So ethical, you know that they're not going to plagiarize. You know that if you've done something, they're not going to take the credit for your work. And they're focused. So they have a focus on where the team needs to be and how the team needs to get there. Visionaries. These are people that are constantly saying, what if? What if we do this? How about if we do that? Have we thought about this? What about if we change this a little? What do you think will happen? And they have excellent communication skills. And this is verbal communication and written communication. Also, body language, the nonverbal communication. Becoming a leader is learning how to delegate, to be able to assign part or all of a project to somebody else, to be able to let go of it. If you have a boss that's very controlling, they have a very difficult time delegating. And so oftentimes your boss or your leader has a tendency to hold on to things into the last minute when they know they can't get the work done. And then suddenly everybody's in fire drill mode. So if you are a leader, you need to be prepared to learn new skills. Also, join committees. Look around and see what committees that you can join so you can learn how the process is. There are even school committees that on campus that you can join. I think they said that as far as organizations, we're up to over 350, maybe even more organizations on campus that you can join. Get some training. Lynda.com, we have access to lynda.com, and there are a lot of training modules on lynda.com. Attend workshops. This is a really good place. Look to see where you're working and see if they have any available workshops. They might only be open to employees, but if you ask, I've learned in the past that when I tell my interns to ask, a lot of times the answer is yes. And then volunteer to serve on a team. That's always a good way to learn how a team works. And get involved in community activities. If you cannot find anything in work, if you cannot find anything in school that you want to get plugged into, look into your community. See what kind of community activities and committees that you can be a part of. So what is a team? It's a group of people who are linked to a common purpose. So they know what their purpose is. They know why they're a team. Now I need to back off a little bit because I know that there are times that you're working in the cloud and you're working with a team and you're working with people that you haven't seen and that you don't know. And suddenly you ask yourself, what is the purpose of this team? Why are we working on this part of the project? And so it's up to you to go and ask your boss, what is the purpose of our team in the big picture, in the scheme of everything? So in a team setting, members share accountability and responsibility. And the synergy, you have to have synergy. Two or more individuals working together toward a specific effort can be absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I would like to hear from someone what they think about teams. I know I've got people out there, so you have to open your mic so you can talk to me. Anybody going to talk? Can people hear me? Oh, yay!
Hey, this is Sean. So, my basic theory about teams, especially in school, is while they can be frustrating, that it's gonna be just as frustrating in real life when you are working with a team at work. So it's best to learn how to get along with a bunch of different people and, use the wide variety of skill sets they might have to, make the most effective product or,
Yes.
program, whatever you're working on.
Yes. The sad thing, well, one of the sad, I mean, it could be a plus or it can be a minus, but when you get into a really good team in industry, this stuff just works so well. And then you can be moved. You can suddenly be moved from that team. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And then you've got to start all over again. And it's not a comfortable place to be. And I want to let you all know that really does happen. And yes, it's very, very, very difficult. So thank you for that input. Thank you for that input. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. So there are several types of teams. There are formal, and this is developed within the formal organization structure, usually within a department. If it's a cross-functional team, which is one of my absolute favorites, you're getting people from different departments. A lot of times we use cross-functional when we have to put together a task force. So in other words, it's kind of like a SWAT team. We have a problem, we need to pull in who we feel are the best people, the best qualified from different departments, put them together as a task force team, get that job done with the understanding that, bam, once that's done, they're no longer a team. So informal, these are individuals who just get together outside of the formal structure and become a team. And then virtual teams, these function through electronic venues, just like kind of what we're doing right now, building ourselves as a team. So teams have stages of team development, and if they don't go through these stages, oftentimes the team doesn't work well. So there's the forming stage. This is where you get to know one another and you form those initial opinions about team members. Now, as you know, and I've told you, we make judgments about you, about your photograph in 3 seconds. We make judgments about you when we've met you in 7 seconds. And usually those judgments that we've made about you within those first 7 seconds, we usually don't change. It takes a lot to make us change our judgment about someone. So always remember that first time that you're meeting the team, it's not a time to hold back and to not bring your personality out. The storming stage is this is when some team members begin to have conflict with one another. So I just recently worked in a team where 2 of the team members have worked together in the past, and they have disagreed heavily in the past. So that storming stage was definitely a storm in the room. And basically some of us that were in that team had to say, you can't control this team by the dynamics that you two have against each other. You're going to have to take it outside of the room and either leave the team or you're going to have to come up with a resolution. So then there's the norming stage, and this is where team members accept each other and overcome their conflicts, which these guys, basically, they didn't have a choice. They had to stay in the team, so they had to work out their conflict. And then the performing stage is where a team works on task. This is where we say, okay, we all know what our boundaries are. We all know what our responsibilities are. We all know what our roles are. And now we're going to get to work. And then the adjourning stage, this is where the team completes the tasks and brings to closure the project. And this is where every team member should be satisfied. They should have all been heard. They should have all been part of the project and just have a real sense of closure so they can move on fresh to the next team, because you don't want them bringing any baggage from their last, if you will, relationship with the team to the new team, like these 2 male members had done in ours. So know the team goals and objectives. This is really important to see what the written goals are and what the written objectives are. And every activity should contribute to team goals and objectives. Team member characteristics means that you have to be trustworthy, you have to be a performer, you have to be efficient, and you have to be a good communicator. So you need to look at these characteristics of yourself, and you notice that number 1 is trustworthy. In a team, you have to be able to trust the other members. You have to be able to trust what they say they will do, what they write down they will do, and what they have inputted in the team's projects. So brainstorming, this is a problem-solving method that involves identifying alternatives that allow members to freely add ideas while other members may withhold. So that is the biggie right there when you're brainstorming. You are looking for alternatives. There is nothing in this that says brainstorming is where you find the solution. Okay, and I think that's a misconception when we get into that brainstorming mode of a team, that some people think that we're there to find the solution. No, we're there to throw everything on the table so that then we can start to manage where it is we want to go. So during this, don't make assumptions. When you're working with a team, never, ever, ever make assumptions about what someone has said. And I will tell you, I see more assumptions made when we're working in the cloud on Jira, Jira, for those of you who are not familiar with it, when people will write a message and another person misinterprets it. If you would disagree with the team, you need to voice your opinion, but you need to state why. You need to state why you're disagreeing. If the team decides to go in a direction other than what you wanted, you need to respect and support the team's decision, because there will be times that your team goes in the wrong direction. And please do not be one of those people that when the team fails, that you're one of the ones pointing and saying, see, I told you so. So if you're committed to the team, you have to be committed to the team full on. Or you need to leave that team and go to a different team. So trust is really the foundation of any team. And please do not dump work on others. When you don't carry your load, that's exactly what you're doing. You're dumping work on others, and it's just not fair. When you work around a lazy team member, it's really, really frustrating, and it's difficult. And know this, that the team will eventually dismiss the poor performer. They will wait so long for that person to be part of the team, but eventually the team will find a way to remove someone who's a poor performer and address performance issues in a respectful and diplomatic manner. So sometimes I've had to go to team members and say, look, I see that you're having a really difficult time with this one activity. Can you tell me what's going on? Can you tell me, what is it you need from the team? What's happening here? And so that's very important that you approach these problems respectfully and diplomatically. None of us like to be attacked. None of us like verbal attacks. And I've seen so many when I go out and I am part of projects in industry that it just bothers me. And it should bother you. So meetings, please be respectful of meetings. This is a common form of team interaction and workplace communication. So there are different types of meetings. My favorite, of course, as all of you know, is a scrum, a daily stand-up, 15 minutes. I set the timer, 15 minutes is over. Oh, well, we didn't cover it. It'll have to be tomorrow. It will not be today. So there are informational, discussion-driven, decisional, and then a combination of all of them. Okay, and then there are formal meetings and informal meetings. So the formal meetings that I go to at San Jose State, there's usually an attorney present. Robert's Rules of Order are heavily in place, and there's a strict agenda. Okay, so there's the agenda. This is an outline of major topics and activities that are scheduled to be addressed during the meeting. Even if you have a study session at school with people that you're studying with, please set up an agenda, because I don't know how many study sessions I ever went to as an undergrad and a graduate student that we just did not get done what we needed to get done. And so I started bringing in an agenda. Here's our agenda. Here's what we're going to cover. Here's how much time we're going to devote to each. This is normally distributed to all attendees prior to the meeting. You need to read the agenda prior to the meeting. I can always tell when people have not read the agenda before they got there, because they either don't have it up on their computer or they haven't brought a written copy. And when a subject area comes up, they absolutely look shocked. I didn't know we were going to discuss this today. I would have come prepared. Well, that's why you got the agenda 5 days ago. Notify the person in charge of the meeting if you would like an item placed on the agenda. So you need to do that within 24 hours. And if you're presenting, please plan ahead and prepare handouts for each attendee if necessary. Even if you send those handouts electronically, please bring some hard copy handouts in case the person has not downloaded or opened up the handouts. Because I have found that the person that usually doesn't download and open up the handouts is the person that's going to make the most comments and have the most questions. So face-to-face meetings are most common, and please arrive early. There's nothing worse than someone coming into the middle of a meeting and it's like, okay, why did you come in now? If you let the presenter of the meeting or the moderator of the meeting know that you're going to be late, usually I will save a seat by the door for the person that tells me that they're going to be late. So when they're late, they can just slip in the door, slip into that chair. And don't sit at the head of the table unless you're invited, especially with formal meetings, because if you're a guest and there's a formal meeting and they're going to be voting, technically, according to Robert's Rules of Order, you're not allowed to sit at the table. So the meeting chair is usually the individual in charge of the meeting. And for those of you who don't know what Robert's Rules of Order is, it's a guide to running meetings. So it's based on, parliamentary procedure. And so if you don't know what it is, there's a free handbook online. You should look at it. You should know it, because there's an assumption that when you go to college, that you've actually been in meetings that have Robert's Rules of Order, or you've been in a sorority or a fraternity or some sort of club, and all the clubs on campus have to use the Robert's Rules of Order. So if you're in a club and they're not using that, they're actually violating what the policy is for clubs on campus. So the steps to successful team presentations is to agree on the presentation goal. Create a presentation outline. Discuss and agree upon verbal, visual, and support content. Each member needs to take responsibility and be accountable to each other. So I see a lot of times when there are team presentations, and I really want to talk about this one, that there are team presentations and only one team member is speaking. And for me as an instructor, for me as a boss, if only one or two team members are speaking, I am going to make the assumption, whether the assumption is right or wrong, that only those people were responsible for the work. So please make sure that when you are doing a team presentation, that every team member gets to have a voice, okay? And so each team member communicates, you share duties, and you behave in a respectful and professional manner. So that means when you're doing a team presentation, not only should you introduce the subject, but you should also introduce the team members and what the team member roles are, or what they were for the project. And one of the great things to do too, so that you can manage that, is to have a slide. As you're introducing each team member, have the team member slide come up with their photograph and a short bio. So I get to stop sharing now, and we get to discuss. So we can have a discussion. Who wants to go first? Questions? Comments about team presentations? You have to open up your mic when you want to comment.
Deborah?
Yes, who's talking?
My name is Vikram.
Oh, there you are. Okay, yes.
So my question is, are we going to have a team presentation for this course?
You will not have a team presentation. You will have an individual presentation.
Okay.
And it will be pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded in sense?
And you will be using Adobe Spark Video. It's on the syllabus. You'll be using Adobe Spark Video, but you will not be recording in Adobe Spark Video because you're going to have to use Zoom to record in.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And that's why I've told you Zoom has a green screen.
Yep.
So you can just put up, and you know how to you can buy a green piece of cloth, hang it behind you, And then whatever you put on your screen, when you're sharing your screen, shows up behind you. So if you wanted to look like you were standing outside of the Golden Gate Bridge, you could.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So pretty cool. So how many of you are getting emergency alerts on your phone?
I am.
I am too. It's going like crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, continuously.
3 messages already.
Yeah. It's in every single language possible. It's because of it's the heat advisory. We are now where I am up to 104. So what's the temperature where everybody else is at? Anybody up?
I think everyone in San Jose has 104 today.
Okay, no, my dad is over in the Blossom Hill area. They're at 107. So and Los Gatos is higher. So it's pretty crazy. All right, so no, you don't have a team presentation in here, but you do have to learn in the classroom what it means to, first of all, act like a team and to look like a team when you are doing a lot of your team projects. And I know a lot of you at San Jose State are required to do team projects. And I want you to be aware about how successful team dynamics look like. And unfortunately, we throw you into these team projects at SJSU and never teach you how to form a team. We just expect that you're going to just, for some reason, know how to do this. Okay. Has anyone been taught at San Jose State how to work as a team?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I never was either. And I'm an alum. There was never a time. I was always assigned to teams, but then no one ever gave us the rules. Here are the rules for your team. Here's the purpose for your team. Here are the responsibilities, and you need to divvy this up between your team members. And then you're going to have conflict. So that is the biggest thing, is setting the rules for when there's conflict in the team. Talking about what do we do if one of us is not doing our job? What will be our course of action? Now, I do have to tell you that, I took a class and I had 2 professors, and both professors said, if you have a team member that is not performing and is not doing what they should do as a team member, then you're to let us know and we will remove that team member. So I went in verbally, because we had 1 team member. I went in verbally and I made them aware of it. Okay, we'll give them another chance. Okay. The second time, the entire team, minus the 1 individual that was doing nothing, came into the professors and lodged our complaint. We'll give him 1 more chance. Okay. The third time, we came with a letter asking them to remove the person that was doing nothing. They said, we'll see what we can do. At the very last, when we were supposed to present, he gave us what we had been asking for all semester long in a shoddy fashion. We had to clean it up. And then the professors allowed him to present with us and gave him the same grade we had. And so after that, I did not trust the system at all to do what needed to be done when it came to building and teaching us how to build teams in the university to take it out into the workforce. And so I started seeking training outside so that when I got into groups and group projects, I could then lead my team. And my team was always shocked when I would come down with a contract. Here's a contract between all of us. And I have to tell you, the first time I did that, 1 team member said, I'm not signing that. And so I called the professor over and I said, we're trying to right now, we're in the storming mode of team development. And she looked at me like, what? And I said, I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page in this group and that we all know our responsibilities and that we'll all be responsible to one another to do our work. And I put together this contract on what are our responsibilities and what will happen if the team member doesn't comply, including me. And the professor looked at it and said, wow, this is great. And then she went and she took it, she made copies, and she gave it to all the teams and said, okay, this is what you'll be doing to make sure the teams go right. I went, wow, okay. So that wasn't why I pulled you over. But I guess, if that worked, then that worked. But setting those rules ahead of time and then playing fair. How do you play fair as a team member? It's not fair to promise someone that you're going to give something to them at 12 o'clock on, Friday, and 6 p.m. rolls around and they still don't have it. And so one of the things I do is in my 100W, my students are doing collaborative writing and collaborative writing assignments now so that they can submit these for professional writing, like if they want to put it in a blog or they want to put it in their portfolio. And what we're all doing in 100W is building portfolios. And so what I have them do when they're writing collaboratively is to share the Google Doc with me and to turn on the comments section. And then in the comments section, make comments about what they're going to do for that particular collaborative portion of that paper, and also commit to the group when that portion will be there. So not only does the group see it, and you've had to write it down and commit, and that I think is what there's a lot of problems in teams, is that you're not committing. You're not saying, okay, I'm making this commitment to you. I will have this to you by this time. And if I don't, if there's a delay, I will call you 2 hours before the deadline and let you know what's going on. And that's another thing. If the deadline comes and goes and you don't communicate to your team why the deadline came and went and you never did anything, we're not going to trust you. We're not going to trust you. And we don't, once you've broken the trust within a team, rebuilding that trust is almost impossible. Okay, do you have comments? Anyone? I'd like to hear from everybody. John, do you have a comment?
Not particularly.
Okay. Do you have any kind of stories about teams that you're just like, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I guess one time I had a teammate who it was for an operating systems class, and we were supposed to be doing some project in C, and he didn't really know C, which is okay. You gotta learn a new language. But what he ended up doing was he found some project similar to ours on GitHub and just copied and pasted it and sent it to me like it was his own work.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I got pretty furious with him actually, and said, why are you putting our whole team at risk for submitting plagiarized work? This is ridiculous. So he kind of got the message, and then the next day he sent me a Java source file that just had a .c extension. He just had no idea what was going on. But
oh wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of a rough team experience.
Yes. Well, I'm just thankful that you could tell that it had been plagiarized.
Well, yeah, there were some indicators, like it was comparing to an output file that didn't look anything like ours. It was pretty clear that it was just copied.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, and because he doesn't know C, he wouldn't be able to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That probably kind of shocked him. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It was upsetting. But
yeah, I guess so. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Prashant, what about you? Prashant?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I mean, I didn't have a particularly bad experience in any of my projects up until now. So particularly about an experience. So I was doing a project last semester, last fall,
Yeah.
and I had a pretty good team actually. So I mean, it's not. I mean, in my opinion, it's not always that we have a bad experience with our teams, right? I mean, so yeah, so we were able to complete our. I mean, we were able to complete our projects like within the deadlines and maybe a more like a week before the deadline probably. So that was, in my opinion, that was a great experience with my team.
Now, was this in school or was this at work?
No, it was in school.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask you a few other questions. In
Sure.
your team, were they all guys?
Oh yes. I
Okay.
mean, that's
Okay.
kind of different question, but still, I mean,
Yes, yes. Okay. And in your team, were they all your same nationality?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that does make a difference when you are working with people
Uh-huh.
who have the same culture as you, because you have a lot of nonverbal communication within a culture that if you're
Exactly right.
outside of that culture, you don't understand it.
Yeah, right.
And that will cause a conflict in a team too. Then if you add gender differences, because women communicate far different than men communicate, and vice versa, then you're going to have even more differences. Okay. And usually if they're all from the same culture, they all share the same values.
Right.
And if you're all around the same age and you're all males, you basically have the same values. So I can see where you wouldn't have those same challenges. And so I would actually challenge you that next time you have an opportunity in a class to form a team, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of because you win it, you right into your comfort zone. Okay, and I'm seeing it in 100W with several members that I have. And in 100W now, you don't get to stay in the same team. You have to migrate out and find every week someone to make a team with that you haven't worked with.
I understand that.
Yes, and they're all going to get very uncomfortable with that. And you have to learn an industry to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
All right.
And so I would challenge you next time. And I'd really like to hear back from you on this.
Oh, definitely.
To pick a team where, okay, they're not in my culture and it's a woman over there too.
Sure. Yeah.
And see what the group dynamics look like.
All right, definitely.
Yeah, there'll definitely be some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Okay, so it is, thank you so much for that, your comments. It is now 3:13 p.m. and I have put up module 2 in Canvas, and I'm going to try and bring up Canvas right now. And like I said, I basically have been in Canvas hell, Canvas and Pearson, not just Canvas. And I have the module here. So good. I'll go. Yeah, this will be CS190. So I'm going to share my screen one more time here. And I'm here. And I'm here. So here is module 2. And in module 2, you have a pre-quiz, a post-quiz, practice 3, team conflict. You're just actually walking through things in this and answering how you feel, and then you get the point for it. And then there's a discussion here. And there are some pointed things in that discussion for you to do. I'm going to open that up. Okay, so conflict resolution is a hot topic, whether you need to enter into a negotiation situation. enhance team building, enter into leadership, or hone your communication skills. Our ultimate goal is to quickly cut to the core and identify challenges and processes to manage difficult relationships, and this is in teams. After reading the chapter and listening to the lecture, how can you use what you've learned to manage your next team conflict? Please do not attach a file. A lot of you did this. We don't like to download your file to our computers. So in the discussion, just put it right in the text box. Submit your answer in the text box. After you submit your answer, see the following below. This is what you're answering, okay? Comment on one of your peers' answers. Give them some constructive feedback. So tell us an experience you've had with team conflict. Briefly, what happened? After reading the chapter and listening to the lecture, what could you have done differently to change or help the situation? So I'm asking you to use what the chapter says, and we're in chapter 11. We are jumping around the book because I'm helping you build to get ready to build that portfolio that's required at the end of this course. And, I first want you to learn, okay, what is a team? What can I bring to my portfolio about team management? And then, how could you change the situation? And then what is your action plan for future team conflicts? The reason why I want you to answer these things is because when you come in to a job interview, I am going to ask you, tell me a time when you were working in a team and you had to handle conflict. And so, Prashant, like you didn't have any stories about conflict. And so I'm going to be really concerned about that. And in my mind, I vocalized to you what I was thinking in my mind. Well, he hasn't worked with women. Well, he's only working with his own culture. And when I asked those questions, it was, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. So you don't want to come across like that during an interview. Okay, so you want to have this interview question ready. And if you don't write it down, the brain basically says the answer doesn't exist. So that's what we're doing for Module 2. And the due dates are on there. The discussion, actually, I let it go a little longer. It is not due until next Friday at 11:59 p.m. Your discussion and answering, giving replies to your peers, and the others are due next Friday at 12 noon. Okay? So does that sound good to everyone?
Yes, Professor, it sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just call me Deborah. Okay. Yeah. So good. Okay, so I'm good. We're done. I've covered everything I want to cover. If you have any questions for me, if you don't, you can leave the meeting. If you have questions for me, I'm actually going to stop the recording somewhere. I guess it's not going to let me. No. Oh, there it is.